Yeah, we'll get started. Having said all that, thank you. Happy Friday. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Bryce Hisaki. I am an academic support coordinator in Student Outreach Services. I use he, him, his pronouns. And yeah, today I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about what we do in Student Outreach Services. And then I will also a little bit later open it up for some questions and answers. So for right now, as you've probably noticed, you've gotten into Zoom here. I have muted your microphones. I've turned off cameras. And later on, if you desire to, when we do some questions and answers, you're welcome to, we can unmute the microphones. And if you want to turn your camera on, that's fine. We also have a chat window. So if you want to ask your questions via chat, I'll be looking at those as they come in as well. But I'll ask that we, kind of hold off on the questions for right now as I go through a presentation. And then, if you have things that come up as you're kind of going through the presentation, feel free to just jot those down. And then when we get to our Q&A session, we'll have some time and I can answer those questions, and I'll try to get to all of your questions as I can. With that, yeah, I'm going to actually be turning off my own camera just while I get into the presentation, just so I'm not a distracting talking head during the presentation, and you can focus on some of the other images and some of the information on the slides as well. I will turn it back on when we get back to the Q&A though, because I don't want you to feel like you're just talking to a computer or something. I actually am behind the screen here on my side of things. So with that, yeah, again, welcome, happy Friday, and we will get into the presentation here. So let me turn off my camera for a minute. And we'll get in. So here we go. So again, just so you know who I am. My name is Bryce Hisaki. I am an academic support coordinator in Student Outreach Services. And just so you know, you're going to hear me say Student Outreach Services a lot during this presentation, but you're also going to hear me say SOS, just because saying Student Outreach Services again and again and again becomes quite a mouthful. And so we do like to say SOS just for short. For those of you that are admitted to Western, congratulations. You're going to realize that Western uses a number of acronyms. You'll hear all kinds of acronyms. So if that ever challenges you, ask questions, ask people, what does that mean? Because, sometimes we as a institution of higher education, sometimes we use those terms very second nature-ish, and it's great to just be able to, what does that mean? What does this term SOS mean versus, feel free to ask if you have any questions like that, because we do want people to know what we're talking about. But if you hear me say them both ways, I am referring to my office, Student Outreach Services. So. And again, welcome everyone. I really hope that this presentation is both informative for you and useful as you kind of prepare for the fall. And then for many of you that are admitted to Western, as you start your classes at Western. As I said before, we will have some time for Q&A later in the presentation, but anything I'm saying during this presentation is fair game. If you have questions, something kind of, what is he talking about? I really would like some more information, something that caught your interest, please jot it down, and then we'll save some time for those questions later. Definitely happy to answer any and all questions to the best of my ability. So I thought to start off, what I would kind of give you are some questions to think about. And in doing so, I have a slide here that I wanted to share this image. These are just kind of more rhetorical questions. You don't actually have to answer these, but I'm just kind of curious what you think. What do you think is happening in this slide? Who is this person? Where are they? And what might this image represent? Well, this could be you, but actually this was me. Okay, not really me. This is just a representation of me. But this was me on my first day of arriving at Western as a new student. Yes, I am a Western alum. I did my undergraduate degree at Western in East Asian Studies, and I did my master's degree in Western in adult education. But this was me way back on day one of arriving at Western as a new student. So if you see that foggy woods in the background, to me, that was Western. Again, not really Western, just a representation, but this was how I saw Western on day one, kind of arriving with its many departments, services, classes, resources, buildings, people, et cetera, et cetera. I really knew nothing about it. For me, fortunately, I did come to Western as a transfer student, so I did have somewhat of an understanding of what college is and how college works, and I knew about some of the resources that I could kind of expect to find at Western. But there were so many things that I didn't know, and I had to learn a lot of things the hard way, as I really just didn't know my way around campus. I didn't know what resources and services were available to me as a student. And so for me, this picture really means a lot. I would say it describes my experience. Western was kind of a foggy place. It was unclear. And I did know that I needed to connect with someone to kind of help me lift that fog and really see what Western had to offer. So for me, things did get much clearer once I finally connected with other people, including my advisor. So I asked this question to you. Who is your advisor? Where can you find, support and help you feel better connected to Western? Well, Western, obviously, we're a fairly big institution. We're a big campus with many different places. The answer to those questions really is that there are multiple people who could be your advisor at Western, and multiple ways that you could get better connected to Western. So I'm not going to tell you about all those right now. What I do want to tell you about is one in particular that I think is a great one, and this is one that I hope you're here to kind of learn more about. So SOS, like I said, Student Outreach Services, we often just call it SOS. So you'll hear me exchange those terms kind of throughout the presentation. It's a great place to start. This is an expression that we like to use in our office a lot. We work primarily with first-year students, so incoming freshmen, transfers, whatnot. And often that first year is, for me, I remember my own experience, a year of questioning, like, where do I do this? And who do I talk to if I need to get that information? And had I known about an office like SOS when I was a student, I think that would have saved me a lot of time and energy. Being able to go to one place and kind of get those answers. And the one thing I would say about SOS in our office is, if we can't help you, we'll connect you with the person who can help you. So if you can't remember anything from this presentation at all today, please remember this phrase. We say it over and over again. SOS, it's a great place to start. We are definitely a good place to kind of start with those intro questions, and we'll help with the more advanced ones too, but we can always connect you to the right resources. So you'll see this slide again later in the presentation. You're welcome to take a photo or screenshot of it now if you want. This is all of our contact information, but I will show it again later in the presentation too. And this is something that all of us in Student Outreach Services and Western really want you to know and remember. You belong here. You really do. So we say that a lot, but I really want to kind of stress that, because you really do. So we're excited for you coming in the fall. And to tell you a little bit more about who Student Outreach Services serves and how we do it, here is our mission statement. It is a little bit long, but I do want to read it because I think it contains really the heart and soul of who SOS is and what we do. Please feel free to read along if you'd like. So Student Outreach Services serves first-generation, multicultural, and non-traditional students and engages students in personalized academic coaching, peer mentoring, and specialized programs using a global and multicultural focus to support student persistence and academic achievement. Okay, we know that that is wordy. It is a mouthful to say. But if I can highlight one key word in that rather long sentence, the key word I think is personalized. We really try to work with you as individuals, and we do understand that while and many students may share similar backgrounds or experiences, each student is an individual with their own unique and personal understandings of the world. And we really want to get to know you on an individual basis so we can provide very personalized services to you. While you may have a student number at Western, you are definitely not a number in SOS. So remember that. We are definitely here for you. You may have also noted in the mission statement that Student Outreach Services serves first-generation students. That is definitely true. And you may have heard the term first-gen student before. You may have even used it to describe yourself. And depending on, your educational background, other schools you may have attended, the definition for first generation it changes from school to school to school. So we wanted to kind of include how Western defines first generation and how SOS defines first generation. So first generation students at Western are defined as students who are the first in their family to attend university, meaning a four-year school, and that their parents did not complete a university degree or a bachelor's degree. I was the first in my family to go to university, and I also identify as a first-gen student, so maybe you do as well. Again, SOS, we are here to help provide some of that connection and support. And I was going to say, if you are the first in your family, then this is indeed a cause for celebration. So really, congratulations on taking those first steps towards earning that university degree. Remember, SOS is here to provide support if needed. So a little bit more about student outreach services. Anyone notice anything particular about this image? This image is actually on our website and also hangs outside of our office front door. If you take a look at it though, really the first thing that kind of draws people's eyes is the center. And yes, students are at the center of the image. Students really are at the center of everything we do in student outreach services. As it says below the image of students, SOS Cares, you belong here. Really, that is kind of the heart and soul of what we do. And so we always put students first. On the outside of that, though, you may have noticed there's a whole lot of words on this image, and I won't read everything that's on here. I'll talk about it a little bit more during the presentation. But kind of a quick summary of what we do is those 4 words that are encircling the image of the students: mentoring, coaching, advising, and teaching. We really are a very holistic office that tries to work with the whole student and working in many different ways. So I'll get into that in a little bit more detail here. So a question that many students will ask about student outreach services is, well, what does advising look like in SOS? And how do we do it? So in order to kind of answer that question, I wanted to show you an image of a model that really describes kind of the advising that we do here in student outreach services. As you can see, again, student is in the center of this image. So again, that focus on the student being the center of everything we do. One thing I will say about our advising is, if you notice, and I don't know if you can see my cursor here, there's actually 4 components to the advising. So this holistic advising, academic coaching, appreciative advising, and growth mindset. We are definitely not a one-size-fits-all advising office. Again, working with the individuals, we really try to get to know people on a personal level so we can incorporate different types of advising that might best work with a student's needs. If a student is wanting to focus solely on academics, I want to plan for my classes for next quarter. I want to make sure I'm taking the right classes to get into my major. How is my GPA, and am I on the right track to graduation? Yes, we can definitely do all of that kind of academic advising. But we also work with students to really make sure that students are getting connected to the campus, building community, getting connected to others. So if you notice around the students there, it says building relationships and building community. This is a really big part of what we do too. So, and then woven into all of that are things like cross-cultural competency, social justice, multiple perspectives, connection, again, that term connection, and then mentoring. So we have a very kind of inclusive, holistic approach to advising, and all of those are equally important in the work that we do with students. So speaking of connection, our challenge to you, especially those of you that are joining us in the fall, is to get connected. So, besides the advising, how else can you get connected with student outreach services? Well, let me tell you, we've got quite a few offerings that we can offer you. So one of the things that we like to talk about is, take one of our classes. Student Outreach Services offers a number of classes, primarily in the fall and then some in the winter, that are student-focused classes, really focused on helping students get connected to their academics, get connected to each other in terms of building a learning community, all of these things. This image that you're actually seeing is something that if you're not familiar with, you will become familiar with at Western. This is a screenshot of Canvas, and this is a screenshot of the Canvas course I was teaching last fall, something called a FIG, or First Year Interest Group. So this was the screenshot of my Canvas page from last fall. So some of the classes that we teach in Student Outreach Services, we have what we call Education 108, which is Purposeful Learning, and then our SOS First Year Interest Group, or FIG, which is actually a cluster of 3 classes that are specifically designed for brand new students. Both of these are great options, as they're really here to help you learn more about yourself as a learner, learn more about how to get better connected to the campus and its many resources, and then also help you to become part of a larger learning community. You know, often our students, as they finish these classes, just the comments that we get is, I feel so connected. I know my advisor, I know my instructor, I know I've got all these classmates that now I may go take other classes with. I've connected to different resources on campus. So this is kind of a great option for incoming students to kind of get connected in a way that's academic, but also to kind of get connected to others. So I'd highly encourage anyone to look into this if you're thinking about classes for fall. Another way that we help students connect is working alongside Western. SOS also provides resources and services for undocumented students. And this is a digital copy of an Unafraid Educator sign. I actually have a real one, like just hanging on my office, on the wall of my office. So if you've never seen one of these before, you might look around campus for these. They might be hanging in people's offices. And within Student Outreach Services, we do have an assigned academic support coordinator who is dedicated to supporting and advising our undocumented students by helping to build connections to resources such as designated financial aid staff who can assist with understanding and applying for financial aid support, and access to a lending library of textbooks, which can be checked out for free. There is also a student club called the Blue Group that SOS is connected to, and the Blue Group provides undocumented students with a safer space to meet other students, find resources and services, and build community. So we're really connected on many different levels across campus. Another way to get connected, and a great one for academics, is we offer one-on-one tutoring services for many math and science classes. So this is a great opportunity. I highly encourage this if you're interested. For those students who advise with us in Student Outreach Services, we offer free one-on-one tutoring for many math and science classes, and even a few other subjects such as business. Business sometimes can be challenging, and so that's one that we like to offer when we can as well. If you're worried about knowing what you have to take in terms of a particular subject, or meeting those basic graduation requirements, or maybe getting into a particular major, and you're kind of worried about, oh, this class is just going to be a struggle to get through, but I really need it to be able to do those things, please come and talk with us, and we can kind of have this discussion about, well, would it be beneficial to set you up with a personal tutor? If we've got the tutor available, let's do it. So I know when I was a student at Western struggling through chemistry, I remember that class kind of painfully well. I really wish there would have been this opportunity for me. I did make it through the class, although just barely, but I did make it through. I can only imagine how much better this class would have been if I had access to a personal tutor. So, if this seems like it might benefit you, please come talk to us about it. I think it's a great option. Additionally, we have a program called the Pathfinder Program, and this provides services and resources for students who identify as Indigenous. As you can see from this image, I know there's a lot of words on this image, but really the focus here is more than just academic advising, and really places a focus on working with the student as a whole student and not just that academic being. Sometimes we talk about that in SOS, kind of the focus on the academic being. Yes, that is an identity for university students. It's part of that identity, but there are many other layers to being a student and just a person in general. And so our advising programs really tend to be very holistic. And with Pathfinder, it has a specific academic support coordinator also assigned, who acts as a mentor and who coaches students who identify as American Indian, Alaska Native, and then other Indigenous and identifying students. In addition to having a specifically assigned advisor, Pathfinder program also has a peer mentor known as the Pathfinder Scout. And this scout can provide mentorship to new students, but also from the perspective of really being a fellow student who can more closely relate to the needs of a student or fellow students served by SOS and the Pathfinder program. And that is the one nice thing about kind of peer programs in general, having that kind of peer-to-peer connection. As much as I will encourage everybody to get out and get to know advisors, get to know your faculty, we also know that there's sometimes an inherent challenge in talking to people in a kind of on a more administrative level. So having those peers to really have those heart-to-heart connections with and those conversations with, I think is great. So speaking of peer mentoring, let me tell you about another program. So we do have what we call our peer mentor program. And this one is very near and dear to me as I am actually the program coordinator for our peer mentor program. And as you can see from this photo, they are a very happy bunch of experienced Western students that are really eager and excited to work with you. And I take a great deal of joy in getting to work with these amazing students on a pretty much almost daily basis. Been a lot of fun this year, a lot of great work has happened, and a lot of connection with different students. And so let me tell you a little bit more about this program. So the peer mentor program, it's really a great way to get connected to Western as a whole. These junior and senior students really know Western well, and they can really help new students connect to the people and the places, both at Western and then also in the larger kind of surrounding community. From the mentors, you might learn the best places on and off campus to study, to eat, to have fun, to exercise, to sightsee, to take visitors from out of town, to do pretty much anything. And you get all sorts of information, you know, about specific classes and programs from the mentors, and you might learn which classes and professors they really enjoyed, and, you know, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but which classes and professors they didn't enjoy as much, because, you know, they are your peers, so they can really kind of give you that honest perspective and really help connect you to the campus. So again, another one I really encourage you in terms of getting connected. So just kind of a way to summarize a little bit, I really want you to know this. Take this to heart. You are capable. You can do this. We know that you've been admitted, that you're excited to be here at Western, hopefully, and you are capable. You really can do this. And also remember that Student Outreach Services is here to support you. So just want to share that message. So at this point, we are kind of at that question, and I'm going to turn the video back on just so you can see who is here talking to you. And I'm going to open up my chat as well. So if anybody has any questions, yeah, please feel free. If you want to turn your mic on and ask the question, you're welcome to do so. If you would like to type in the chat box and ask a question, I will kind of take questions as they come. And yeah, I'm here for questions. All right, now I see some questions coming in. These are great. These are great. So I'll try to get to them one at a time. But yeah, let me take a look at these. So one question was, does SOS deal with transfer credit questions? I have some dual credits. And yes, we work with first year, meaning not only incoming freshmen, but transfer students. Being a transfer student myself, I remember transferring in credits and all of that. And yes, we're happy to work with students who have transfer credits and help you understand how those credits transfer to Western, what it looks like on your academic history at Western, how they might apply potentially to our basic graduation requirements, apply towards a major or minor, all of those things. So I would say, you know, as I answer these questions, I may be answering them in a very generic way. Some of the answers to these questions might be better answered in actually having a one-on-one appointment with one of our SOS advisors, so we can sit down with you either via phone or Zoom right now and, you know, go over these individually with you, and looking at your credits and how that might transfer. But yes, absolutely, with transfer credits, we can answer those questions. A question was, when and how should we reach out to advisors to schedule classes? Great question. I would say, if you know you're coming for fall quarter, there's never a too soon kind of answer to that question. Anytime would be a good time to do so. And you're welcome to, and I'll share that contact information with SOS again. So you'll have our phone number and our website and our email address and all of that. You're welcome to reach out to us now, and we can start talking about planning for fall classes and what that might look like. As you're kind of going through this admission process, it may be that we don't have access to credits that you may have already earned if you have some. So that might be a conversation that we could have over the phone or via Zoom about, what you're bringing in, if anything, and how that might apply. And then if you're starting out brand new, we can definitely kind of have some conversation about, our general university requirements, which every student generally has to take, unless you've got like a transfer degree that might satisfy or substitute those. But we can definitely start. You're welcome to reach out and connect with us now, and we can kind of start talking about fall. And then as you get to Western, we register for each quarter, the quarter before that quarter. So we always encourage students to have more conversation with us during the quarter so we can plan for the next quarter. Another question was, do you have any info on deferrals this year, and how might that affect admissions for next year? That's a really good question. I will take note of that question and see if we can get someone in admissions to answer that question for you. I know that there is a deferrals process, and that admissions works with students to identify the needs of the individual student and see what that deferrals process might look like, in terms of like, when are we talking about? Is it one quarter? Is it a whole year? But I will leave that question for admissions to answer, because I don't want to give wrong information on that. There was a question about elaborating a little bit more on the process to accessing a personal tutor. Is there a need that must be demonstrated or an endorsement required prior to the request? Really, what is involved there is more of a relationship, in terms of an advising relationship with one of our advisors in student outreach services. We like to have the conversation with students during an advising appointment about how things are going in their classes, so then we can best determine if, along with the student, if the tutoring is the best option. Sometimes students will come in and request tutoring, and we like to have conversations to see what other options they might be using in terms of supporting a class. Are they connecting with their professor? Are they aware that there's a tutoring center? Does that department offer its own departmental tutoring? Are there instructor advisors or peers they might connect with? The one thing I will say about tutoring, that as much as we love it, it's also, it's not a silver bullet, essentially, in terms of fixing everything for a class. And we kind of see it as more a tool in the tool belt. It could be one of multiple ways to help and strengthen the student's understanding of a particular subject. But yeah, if anyone has interest in tutoring, please come talk to us, and we'll have that conversation. And then if it seems like it's in the student's best interest, yeah, we'll try to set up some tutoring. Question asked, how is SOS similar to the Disability Access Center program? And in some ways, if you're not familiar with Disability Access Center, we are similar but different. Again, our focus is on providing academic and holistic advising support for students who identify as first generation, multicultural, or non-traditional. And that can entail, like, I was a non-traditional student as well. I came back to school, I came to Western in my early 30s, actually. So I didn't really fit into the typical college age of the 18 to 21. I was a transfer student. I already had worked a certain number of years. So there's really a focus there on kind of making sure that we're providing advising that is very holistic, that works with students who, if you're a first generation student, one of the expressions that we often use is, you don't know what you don't know. If you are first gen, there's kind of an assumption that, not having family who knows what school's like, you might be learning things as you go. And so we try to provide some very how do I say, Sorry, I'm at a loss for words. It's Friday and I've been talking all week with students. Kind of an in-depth look at what Western has to offer, and kind of an overview of all of the different ways a student can connect with Western and its many resources, to make sure that a student really understands what all their options are. Disability Access Center is really working more with students that are, have a diagnosed disability, whether that's learning, physical, emotional, things like that. So we often work alongside the DAC and in terms of providing support for students, but we are not the same. And so their services sometimes is similar. They may provide tutoring, but they may also provide things like note-taking. They may work with professors and departments to get accommodations for students for longer test taking, exceptions on potentially certain kinds of assignments, the way instruction is delivered, things like that. So some of what they can do, SOS cannot do, just because of the nature of the work they do. So I hope that answers that question. We work in tandem with the DAC, but we're not necessarily the same office, and we don't duplicate what they do, nor do they duplicate what we do, but often it's similar work in that sense. Another couple of questions that came in. One says, will Western have online classes in the fall? I will answer this in the best way that I know how to answer it, which is kind of a tentative answer. There was some information that came out last week about Western's plan for the fall being what they call a hybrid model, where we have a mix of potentially online classes and then some face-to-face classes. The focus with the online classes being in very small classes, if that makes sense. So probably, and I am guessing here, so don't quote me on this to be 100% accurate, but I would say probably classes that are like 25 seats or smaller will potentially have the option to be face-to-face. And really, this is kind of basing it on the idea of continued social distancing. If we have students in classrooms, can they be safely inhabiting a classroom where there is kind of that 6-foot socially distanced kind of space in the classroom? The plan for larger classes is to be online. Now, these are just plans right now, and things could change. So, my best bit of advice would be to keep looking at Western's website if you haven't checked that out before. On Western's homepage, there is a section set up for students specifically around COVID-19, the coronavirus, with current information about spring and summer quarters and what those classes are going to be like. And then there's a kind of an information page. As official university announcements come out, they're always added onto that web page, and you can always go for the latest bits of information. So that's kind of where we are at with what fall is looking like for right now. And when they also say hybrid, I would also say that for some of those classes, if there is the face-to-face option, my understanding is those classes will also simultaneously be taught online. So there's an online version in case students want to attend Western but physically don't want to be here on campus. So there's kind of both of those things probably happening in the fall. Again, stay tuned. We're kind of learning as we go, but that's a great question, and it's one that just continues to come up. Does Western have exchange programs? If we're talking internationally, yes. Again, and I would say, if this were a normal situation where we didn't have the coronavirus, COVID-19 happening right now, yes, Western has a very rich exchange program. Internationally, many countries, our Office of International Programs sends students all over the place. And I would, I'm hoping, knock on wood, fingers crossed, that when all of this passes and we're kind of back to doing business as normal, if you're coming to Western and hoping to do an exchange program at some point in the near future, yes, you'll be able to access that and can do all kinds of exchange programs. So great question. It's, right now, and I guess to answer that question to the best of my knowledge, is currently not really. They have canceled most of the current exchange programs to the best of my knowledge. Students have returned from abroad, things like that. But yeah, I'm hopeful at some point in the near future that that will all start back up again and we can get back to sending students abroad that are interested, because it's a great opportunity. Other questions? These are all really good questions. And I apologize for some of these questions if I don't have the most concrete answers. I'm one of the things, and you'll find this about my office, Student Outreach Services, is I think one of the ways we approach our conversations and our connections with students is to try to do it in a way that's as authentic as we can be. You know, I will give you answers to the best of my knowledge, and it's usually based on what's been shared with me. So if I don't have the answer, I don't want to tell you something that I think is true if it's not, because I don't want to give you wrong information. But I do want to connect you to the correct answers if I can. So yeah, good questions. It looks like some of the questioning has slowed down. I'm not really getting any more at this point. So if I'll give you a minute or two more if anyone has any last minute questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up. But having said that too, if you have any questions that come up after this presentation is done, again, I'm going to share our contact information. Please reach out to us. We highly encourage students that even though you may not be, you know, a registered student in the sense of you're in classes and actually active at Western yet, we love talking to prospective students. And you know, please, you know, if you're a transfer student, as a fellow transfer student, I love answering those kind of questions about, you know, what was my transfer experience like and what might that be like for you. And if you're a brand new student, you know, we want to help make that transition to Western as smooth as possible. So please do reach out and let us know if you have any questions. So what I'll do is I'm going to go on and we'll just kind of continue on again, and I will share our contact information once again. Please feel free to take a screenshot of this, or, you know, grab your camera or your phone and take a shot of that. It's got our phone number, it's got our email address, and know that somebody is actually in our office. Even though we're physically not there, we're doing everything remotely. Someone is monitoring our phone calls and our email, so you can always call and somebody should answer, or, you know, send us an email. Also, I wanted to share, is everyone good with the screen? I'll go on to the next one. This is just our website, and this might be the easiest way. There's also a QR code if you like just kind of grabbing that, and that'll take you right to our website. But this also will give you the links to our contact information. So please do stay connected. We are here to make sure that, you know, we can answer any and all questions, and yeah, all of that. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone who stuck around for the presentation. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I know it's a long weekend this weekend, so hopefully you're able to kind of safely get out there and enjoy it. And again, please remember to connect with us in Student Outreach Services. We are here to help. And with that, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you, and stay in touch.